They told you death was the end, a final curtain, a cold silence, a black void. But what if they were wrong? What if everything you feared about dying was based on a misunderstanding? Edgar Cayce didn't speculate, he saw. In a trance state that felt more real than waking life, he stepped out of his body and came back with something most of us ignore until it's too late: the truth. Cayce described dying not as pain, not as fear, but as something eerily peaceful. Like removing a heavy coat. No struggle, no shock, just stillness. Just awareness. You rise, he said. Not metaphorically, literally. You see your body below you. You watch the room from above. You're there, but not there. Present, but beyond. And what happens next? That's where everything changes. You are not pulled into judgment. You are not punished. You are not greeted by some cosmic courtroom. Instead, you're shown you. Not your resume, not your status, but your effect, your intentions. You relive the moments that mattered, but not from your side, from theirs. Every word that cut, every silence that hurt, every moment you loved, not imagined, but felt. Intensely, instantly. This is not religion. It's not karma as threat or dogma. It's pure awareness. It's the soul remembering everything it forgot while playing human. Cayce called it a review, not as a bureaucratic process, but as a remembering of vibration, a mirror of impact, a total breakdown of what you left behind in people's hearts. This isn't about heaven or hell. You don't get sent anywhere. You arrive where you already are, without the distractions. No mask, no labels, just resonance. If you lived in truth, you feel light. If you lived in fear, you feel the weight. But the weight isn't punishment, it's recognition. This is who you really were. And it's the first time you've seen it with nothing to hide behind. You don't get judged by God. You get shown what you really became. And that's more terrifying and more liberating than any fire or angel could ever be. That's why Cayce returned shaken, often silent. Not because what he saw was horrifying, but because it was real. So real that this world, the one we think is everything, suddenly looked like a dream. You can feel it, can't you? The part of you that's watching, listening, remembering. You've touched it before. In grief, in love, in moments of stillness. The soul knows, the body forgets. But this is your reminder. Not of what comes next, but of what's always been inside you, waiting. Edgar Cayce didn't just leave his body, he crossed thresholds. Not just into the beyond, but into the hidden mechanics of existence itself. And what he found between death and return is more shocking than any religion dares to teach. He called it the corridor, a space between spaces, a state where time dissolves, identity flickers, and the soul is confronted not with punishment, but with potential. You don't go to some celestial waiting room, you go into yourself. And in that silence, in that light, you feel the gravity of every choice. Not from outside, from within. Cayce saw souls that couldn't let go, not because they were evil, but because they were afraid of leaving loved ones, of unfinished stories, of dissolving into something unknown. And so they stayed, in the gray light. Not heaven, not hell, just a hallway with no door. A place where peace can't find you because you haven't chosen it yet. But you're not left there. Beings come, not angels with wings, not ghosts of relatives, beings of presence, of feeling, of recognition. You don't see them, you remember them. They don't speak, they remind. And still they don't push, they don't demand. Because here's the deepest secret Cayce revealed: you're never forced to return to life. You choose it. That's the twist. The soul chooses pain, it chooses love, it chooses fear, it chooses a body, a family, a place. Not as punishment, as curriculum. You're not sent here to suffer. You're here to grow. And you knew that when you agreed to come. Cayce described it not as a decision, but as a symphony, a convergence of light, intention, and memory shaping a new life. You didn't get thrown into earth, you descended with purpose. Even if you forgot, even if it hurts, even if the story feels like chaos, it's not. It's the unfolding of something you once believed you were strong enough to endure and transform. He saw it. Souls returning to earth, not with reluctance, but with urgency. With longing, because there is something here you can't learn in the light. Something about being human, fragile, flawed, afraid, that gives the soul exactly what it needs to become itself. Every heartbreak is a spark, every failure a fragment of your awakening. That's what Cayce meant when he said, "True life is not here. We are merely guests, travelers, students. But even as travelers, we leave marks. And the question isn't whether you'll return again, The question is, what will you bring back with you? The pain you avoided or the light you earned? That's the power of the corridor. It doesn't trap you, it reflects you. And then it waits for your choice. There is a kind of pain that doesn't come from dying. It comes from remembering, from seeing your life, not as you told it, not as others believed it, but as it actually felt to the world around you. Edgar Cayce didn't speak of fire or judgment. He spoke of weight, the kind that wraps around a soul when it realizes it lived smaller than it was meant to. He saw it, souls dragging the weight of regret, still clinging to their image, their mistakes, their pride, and he said, that's what keeps us from rising. Not sin, not shame, attachment to who we thought we were. But there's a way out, and it's not punishment. It's not repentance, it's release. Forgiveness is not some religious command, it's soul technology. Cayce saw that when a soul forgives, truly lets go, it rises instantly, because the burden was never placed on you by anyone else. You placed it there, and only you can drop it. But it's not just the weight that matters, it's what's underneath it. Cayce described levels of reality that weren't places, but states, vibrations, realms that mirrored the soul's purity, its clarity, its light. Some were calm, like endless lakes of peace. Others were rivers of motion and change. You didn't go to them, you resonated with them. If you lived with love, even when it hurt, you rose. If you lived in lies, even if well hidden, you sank, but never forever. Because even the darkest soul carries a spark. And the universe never gives up on it. Cayce saw this, that souls who wandered, confused, fragmented, afraid, were always met with help. Not saviors, reminders, beings who whispered, you are more than this, you are not alone. Sometimes the soul returns to earth, sometimes it stays, but it never returns to suffer, it returns to become. That's the secret. You're not stuck in a cycle of punishment, you're in a spiral of awakening. Every life is another chance to get closer. Not to heaven, to yourself. And the more you remember, the less you need to come back. Because when you remember who you really are, Earth isn't a trap, it's a tool. And dying, it's not an escape, it's a mirror, a reflection of your growth, a checkpoint in your eternal unfolding. Cayce said that the soul doesn't carry its deeds, it carries its intentions. Not what you did, but why. And that truth burns deeper than any doctrine. It strips away every excuse, every story, every mask. Until all that's left is you, raw, radiant, accountable. This is not about fear. It's about power. The quiet, terrifying power of realizing that you're the one writing your map. And everything you fear about death is just the part of you that hasn't remembered how infinite you really are. The body breaks, the soul remains. And what comes after isn't judgment, it's truth. The kind you can't run from. The kind you don't want to. The kind that makes you want to live better, not out of fear, but out of love for who you're becoming. At the farthest edge of what Edgar Cayce saw, beyond the corridors, beyond the mirror, beyond the layered realms of memory and choice, there was silence. But not the kind that empties, the kind that holds everything. A silence so vast, so full, it becomes a presence. A source, not a throne, not a man in the sky, but the place where you and what you call God are not separate things but one. Cayce described this as the soul's origin. It's home. And to reach it isn't about ascending, it's about remembering. Remembering so completely that all illusion falls away. But most souls don't get there quickly, because even after death, we hold on to identity, to resentment, to the fear that we weren't enough. And every attachment becomes a weight, a delay. He saw souls wandering, not lost, but afraid to let go of who they thought they were, afraid to dissolve into something greater. And still, the source waits. It does not chase, it does not command, it simply is. And when the soul is ready, when it's stripped clean of story, of mask, of pride, it returns, not to disappear, but to become real. Cayce spoke of souls weeping not because they were punished, but because they finally understood how deeply they had been loved all along. They hadn't been judged, they had been seen, completely, and still they were loved. That is the weight that breaks you open, not guilt but grace. And from that place, the soul makes its truest choice, to stay or to return, not because it has to, but because it wants to, because there's more to learn, more to love, more to become. Cayce said the soul chooses its next life like an artist choosing a canvas, not randomly, not blindly, but with reverence. It chooses the parents, the body, the timing, the lessons, not to suffer, to transform. So when you ask why this life is hard, why you were given what you were, remember, you are not a victim of fate. You are a creator of meaning. You are not a body seeking a soul. You are a soul wearing a body. And every experience, every wound, every joy, every silence is a line in the poem you were born to write. Cayce said that the universe never forgets you. That even in your worst pain, your deepest confusion, there is a thread pulling you back to yourself. The only real question, he said, is the one you'll ask yourself when the body fades and nothing is left but truth. Did I become who I was meant to be? Not perfect, not successful, just real. And maybe that's why you're here. Not by accident, not by chance, but because something inside you already knows. If you feel that, if something stirred inside you while hearing these words, don't let it fade. Don't let it slip back into forgetfulness. Like this video, subscribe to Whispers of the Universe. Not just to hear more, but to remind yourself of what you already carry. The voice inside you, the one that never left. Share this with someone who's ready to wake up. Leave a sign in the comments, a heart, a dot, a whisper, so others know they're not alone. This isn't just content, this is the call. And if you've heard it, it means you're already on your way home.